Hi everyone, it is June 22nd. Sorry that I'm kind of laying down. It hurts a little bit, so I'm just trying to lay down for a little bit. But I wanted to talk about some stuff with the accident. I have obviously kind of been making sure to create videos about things that I've gone through and going through and such. So today, my parents and I got into a conversation about um, you know, things that have come up, I guess, things that happened when the accident occurred, that I did completely forget about because, I had a lot of assistance, from my family during the accident and friends and people who stepped in to help. Um, I don't, that's, so a lot of things were masked as far as the realities of what you have to deal with when something like this happens. Um, And what I mean by that, for example, is, when the accident happened, I was living by myself in Phoenix, and my family owns a business in uh, California, in San Diego, and my sister lives out in Temecula. And then I have friends in New Jersey, I have friends in Phoenix. But when this happened, I had two dogs. When this happened, I was actually renting my parents' condo in Phoenix. I didn't have any family there, and I was paying them for that, just like a regular, place. They own the condo, and I was paying rent to them. So when the accident happened, I was very grateful in that I was staying at my own family's place, but that blow of not having income to be able to, or a streamline of income to be able to pay for rent, for example, for my cars. I had two cars, um, and that was because of my profession. Um, and then also my dogs. Um, you know, uh, if I hadn't been able to have my mom out, my mom moved in for 3 months. I mean, when I came home from the hospital, I think it was September, or from rehab, September 8th, I was in a wheelchair. I was just barely being able to, stand on my, I could, minimally walk with my walker, but I still was walking, so that's great. But I needed a lot of help. So if she had not been there, if I had not had my own place, or if I had not had a place, that belonged to my family that could help me out as far as being patient with rent and stuff like that, then I would have been really in a state of turmoil between trying to adjust to, I mean, who would have been able to take care of me? I needed help, and it's not cheap to get help when something like this happens. So this could have really turned me upside down, and it definitely it impacted my family. It was definitely very stressful for them. And they own a business here. Um, my mom, you know, obviously I'm her child. And I'm the oldest. She, wanted to be there to help me, and she was able to do that because of the responsibilities of, um, I guess, helping my dad with the business. She was able to. It's not a physical. It was. They don't own a grocery store or anything like that. Like, she was able to do things um, remotely, but she was traveling back and forth a lot. So, and then also she was taking care of me. I mean, I needed a lot of care in the beginning, for a couple months. So, that said, this was a huge undertaking. Um, Being driven back and forth to um, doctor's appointments, hospital, um, getting medical records, going for counseling, basic things. I mean, when I got home, one of the other things that we had to deal with is that I had a concussion. So the mattress that I had was giving me terrible headaches. It like the pain, it wasn't pain, it was pressure. It was very heavy pressure on my head, and I was terrified that if that continued, something would malfunction health-wise, and I would be in a really bad state. So I had to borrow money from them to buy a mattress, brand new mattress, and I, put some money into that because you don't want to take a risk on something like that. There's no way. But again, being able to do that, I mean, if I didn't have the means or the resources to be able to do that, it could have jeopardized my health. I mean, this was a huge undertaking. It was a big loss for me financially. It was huge. The money, the upfront costs are large, and you're already dealing with trauma from. You're dealing with shock from an accident, and you're also dealing with your health. My health was, it was a lot. I remember when I came home in the beginning, I was so stressed out and I would cry to my mom, and there were a couple times I specifically remember just saying, why did this have to happen? Like, why does this have to happen to me? And it was stressful, and you're in that kind of mind frame, and then on top of that, being concerned about how are you going to, if I didn't have the support, how am I going to live? How am I going to afford my place? How am I going to get help? If I slip in the bathtub, I have no one to call, or I have to inconvenience people. It's a huge undertaking. I have been blessed with my family having been there, but it just scares me thinking about somebody that didn't have that. It doesn't have or didn't have that kind of support. Oh man, my sister and my family stepped in to do all paperwork to try to get me help. We had applied to the Metro Valley for transit in the event that my mom wasn't around and I didn't have anybody take me anywhere. Then at least I have the ADA transport vehicle that could come pick me up. That was a lot of paperwork. That was, again, going and interviewing with them. I had to physically go in my wheelchair. I had to do a test. I had to get assessed. Food stamps. I had to be on nutrition assistance because I don't have an income. And, it just, all that paperwork and every other possible program that I could have tried to reach out for help from, I did not get the ball rolling on those because I had people to help me. But if you were dealing with this by yourself, that's a lot. And that was my family who stepped in to help and find the attorneys, and my best friends, Mohan, being there to help me figure out the best people to surround that would help me. And it just, it's a huge, huge undertaking. Then people coming back and forth to the hospital. I was in the hospital for a month. I was in rehab, transitional rehab, for another month. And then I was supposed to go to a regular rehab facility. The transitional rehab facility was because I was non-load bearing, meaning I couldn't put my weight on my legs. I could barely even move. I'll never forget the very first day that I was happy to come out of the hospital, but I went into the transitional rehab and it was awful. It was like, I remember looking at the time, 8 p.m. on August, I think it was 12th. And I was in a bed by the hallway. They don't close doors, so the light is shining right on me. My roommate was in another bed, obviously, and she was watching TV at 11:30 at night. And she had some health issues, so she was coughing. You know, when I had to stay there for, they were trying to tell me it was only 2 weeks. I was there for 4. So, and I mean, that would be really scary if you're, you know, my dogs were taken away, my car, one of my cars. So it's just a lot to deal with. There's a lot of things that I've been so grateful have been in place. Now that I'm talking about it, it's overwhelming. There's so much. And I'm so grateful that I've had the help that I've had. Because this would have been a nightmare to deal with by yourself. And it would have destroyed me. I'm alone in Phoenix. Financially, this is, you just will burn through everything you've ever worked hard for. And then I don't, you know, and then the government programs, the judicial system. These are not things I've been involved with before. Luckily, my sister is a therapist for the VA. She knows what programs are available to a degree. So she was able to get help, but she also is busy, has a family. Her, my dad, people flew in and out of Phoenix trying to stay with me, using rewards points to stay in hotels, redirecting travel. My dad used to come out just for, you know, it's just all emotional support. Like, if you don't have that, and my friends used to come to the hospital, people used to stay with me in the hospital room overnight because they didn't want to stay alone. I was never alone. For the 2 months that I was in rehab in the hospital, I was really, really, rarely ever alone, and that helped mentally and emotionally. I always had someone to help me not be alone, not get in my head. So the financial and the emotional assistance that I got is bar none. And if I didn't have that, I would not be at this point and I would not have recovered as well. It would have, I can't even imagine having done this alone. I cannot imagine. There's so many memories of, I don't even have very many memories where I'm alone until recently. Like doing things or not having assistance. So this is a big deal. This for anybody. For me too, this was a huge blow. When you start to think about it in terms of, now that I'm thinking about it and I'm thinking about how much help and assistance and people around me I had, how fortunate I've been to go through this with that support. It's you have to give the credit where the credit's due. It's, you know, I couldn't have done this by myself. So those are just some things that I wanted to touch base on. I haven't ever really talked about this topic before, how much support I've had and how immensely helpful this has been on every level, having that, because I'm telling you, doing this by yourself when you're dealing with your own health, scared. If I was dealing one-on-one with the doctors, if I didn't have power of attorney to people and I was dealing with everything by myself, it would have been awful. Awful. I probably would have broke down. And no matter how positive you are, it's a lot. It's all life changes at one point, and you don't know what's going to happen at the end of it. So I just wanted to share that. And it's these times, reflecting on things that remind me of how fortunate I am to have gone through something so traumatic and, oh God, been so blessed to have made it through. It's surreal. It's emotional. I'm trying not to cry, but it's a lot. And trying to convey that, explain to people how awful this is, and you know that the person that hurt you, they're not gonna get it. They're not, it's just don't even have consideration. She hit me and kept going. So you don't really find solace or comfort. And yes, she's caught, but at the end of the day, for me, she's not gonna understand this. What I went through. So therefore, it doesn't really bring me much comfort. But this is why I want to share this experience with people. It's not easy. It's not easy, and this could have easily broke anyone. And financially, emotionally, physically, I somehow was spared. And that's a miracle. And I can't thank my family and friends and the support enough, because I couldn't have done this. I could have maybe done so much, but there is so much that was over my head with this experience. And the only way that I could process everything was because everything was in place for me to do so. So, that said, again, a really challenging post for me. And again, I'm trying not to get emotional about it. But I'm just really, really grateful that so many people were there to help me. So thank you.